Good evening. It's a little past 6:30, but we're about to launch our first live session geared towards becoming the general manager of your life, protecting the vision through the storm. That's what we're going to talk about today in week one. You know, when I was watching the NFL draft a few weeks ago, I couldn't help but think and reflect upon young Shador Sanders and Dion, as well as Shiloh. And I also thought of myself, and I thought of Allen Iverson. And I remember how it was when Allen came out of high school, had his problems, went to Georgetown University, came out, and was drafted number one overall by the 76ers. See, I know then, like I know now, that when you're young and you're gifted and you have a whole lot of money, that's a problem for some people. However, just like Dion has done for his kids and protected them from the scrutiny that comes from any mistake that you make in life, I was there to protect the guy I call Bubba Chuck. And that's where the reference ends. Because I wasn't his father. I was just a black man who cared. And I cared that he learned to weather these storms, because storms will come. And they're going to come in waves, seem like. And when you're that young, you're not going to do everything right. But storms aren't there to destroy. They're there to test you. They want to test your discipline, test your focus, and test your heart. See, adversity is not the end. It's a mirror that reveals to you sometimes who you are become or who you will become. So as I watched this draft, man, I was watching this draft for one reason only. I wanted to see where Shador Sanders would be picked in this draft, because I knew all of the scrutiny that was coming from him and Shiloh being prime times kids. So, and I also watched everything that went on before that. I watched and saw how they decided to do this thing, and they didn't get an agent. They had prime time. I don't blame them for that, because if I had to do it all over again, I think I would have done it the same way. However, we live in a society that is based primarily on public opinion. And the public opinion says that you don't do it that way. However, when you prime time and you got kids, both of which are generational talents, you can sometimes do it that way. However, but you understand, go in with an understanding that you must weather every storm that comes. And right off the bat, they had a storm that they had to deal with. You know what I mean? And when I saw Dion post this, let me make that big enough for you to see. When I saw that, this too shall pass. There's 221 of y'all that need to know the storm you're facing, and getting the best of you right now shall pass. Hold on to the lesson and where your level of faith is in the midst of the storm. God is a progressive God. So progress and don't stress. Do you know that Bubba Chuck probably heard that from me either every other week, month, day, but it was every single time that he faced a storm in his life. From the time that he was 9 years old and learned how to throw a football, all the way until he dribbled the basketball onto the steps of the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. That's just how many storms that he had to endure, and just how many of them that he was able to survive. And remember, storms, I made him understand that these are a couple of key points, that storms reveal more than they destroy. But the mistakes magnified in public, we had to understand that you have to develop the mindset that you handle them with private growth and positive public accountability. Those were the things that we learned to understand, and we learned to endure. And I had to develop some strategies. And I'm sure that Prime did some of the same things. You have to protect the mission. Don't lose track of the long-term goal. Why you get mad because the man said something about he wears a chain, legendary? Because he know at a very young age the importance of legacy. That's why. And to learn and pivot. See, mistakes repeated are lessons rejected. If you don't learn nothing from your mistakes, then you're just gonna keep on making the same mistakes over and over again. And that's one thing that you always encourage as you tend to be the general manager of your life. Don't continue to make the same mistakes twice. Be storm tested. Storms come to test what you built, man. They come to test your focus. They come to test your discipline. Remember I said that? And they come to test your heart. And that's why I posted this. I met Deion Sanders in person back when little after he had founded Prime Prep, which was a high school type private school that he used to not only teach and make sure that they empowered his sons, but however many other promising young athletes or entertainers or anybody else who was dreaming for success in their lives back in Texas. And then I posted a picture in the middle, what they had gone through draft night. And he had the caption in there, they tested us, this. And you see the picture of me and AI. I was probably telling him at this moment, I can't say specifically, but I was probably telling him at that particular moment, this too shall pass. See, because I used to always say that to him because I wanted that phrase to be a shield for him against public scrutiny and a lens so that you could see that what you're going through is temporary. And it also represented a call to focus. Focus on legacy over top of momentary lapses in judgment. Because you're gonna make mistakes, man. And that's what we have to understand, and that's what we have to grow from. We have to grow from our mistakes. You know, and I use that ideology of being the GM of your life because I saw a lot in my time working through the professional and professional ranks of basketball and all. So I got to understand firsthand what a general manager actually does, you know. And you know, the general manager, that's what he did. He was the one who built the team. He developed the strategies for success, and he protected the vision of the organization. And that is what I attest to you today should be your mission as the general managers of your life. It's all about protecting your vision, building your strategy, managing your storms, and leading your life just like a true general manager. You're meant to grow. Life is meant to put storms in your way. Life is meant to put obstacles. There are going to be obstacles in your way, but you don't live in them. You learn how to get past them. Sometimes it takes just a moment to just pause and assess what's really at stake here, and then what triggered it. See, anything that doesn't happen right, you want to assess and figure out why, because that's how you learn. You live, learn, and you grow. You do that, you can protect your mission, and it will never allow you to lose sight of your long-term goals. I'm Coach Mo. I'm Gary Mo Moore, and I'm here to tell you that we can learn and we can pivot from our mistakes. But more importantly, we can be the general managers of our lives. Because if we don't manage our lives, don't you expect nobody else to. You know, make yourself a little uncomfortable. It's gonna make you a little uncomfortable sometimes. You know, but in the big realm of speaking and the big picture of doing things, that's what you want to focus on and keep your mind set on the big picture and focus on it. Now, next week, we'll come back and we'll talk again, and I'll pick another subject. And I'm gonna stay on this protecting your vision as you become the general manager of your life, because we have to figure out and utilize different strategies. That's another reason that I wrote the book, Realizing the Answer, because it told my life story, but it also revealed some of the personal tragedies in my life that I ended up using to become the catalyst for change and to help me to understand how I had to grow, how I had to live, learn, and grow through my life's struggles and through my life's problems and whatnot. And that's what you have to do. And I want to encourage each and every one of us each and every one of you within the sound of my voice to do just that, to live, learn, and grow, and know the importance of doing so. Because you can become the general manager of your life and lead it in a way that's extremely productive. Now, next week, I have an array of subjects, but I want you to keep in mind this other one. In handling adversity, I look at the fear factor, and it's about choices. Will you, when facing adversity, will you forget everything and run? Or will you face everything, rise above it? Realize your answer. Become the general manager of your life. Tune in next week. Same time, same channel. Have a blessed week.